Hello, I'm Dan Doolan,
I'm Chris Billingham.
who I caught unsuspecting while mid-drink with the start of this podcast, and join us as we venture into the unknown and overanalyze the garden wall. Welcome, and Chris, how's that drink working out for you?
It's good. It's just water. Just a little bit of water. It's good. I'm enjoying it.
I've got two drinks, which is, I do this every time. I start with two drinks, and I only ever finish one of them. It's utterly
and I
pointless.
bet you finished that one quite quickly as well.
No, I don't actually. No, I usually it's one slowly throughout the whole podcast. The second one is like in case I suddenly get an urge to drink a lot, and then I've at least got the other one to sup on. Like that's weird. I don't know why I do that. It's very strange.
Are they both water? What's your?
No,
what's your
I've got Vimto, and I've got a cup of tea.
That's not fizzy Vimto, is it? It's,
No, that is the
Vimto.
the squash Vimto. For American listeners, I guess you'd call that a cordial. No, do they call it that?
Yeah.
They don't have Vimto in America,
Yeah.
so I don't know if they'll understand what that is. But a cup of tea, that's universal. I have tea, and then like a squash.
I feel like I will rarely turn down a cup of tea, but I will equally rarely never make a cup of tea. So I would never. I've rarely done a podcast with a tea.
I don't remember the last. Yeah, I don't remember the last time I didn't start the pod. Like my prep for this is get the mic ready, make a cup of tea. There have been times when you've been waiting to record and you've been like ready, and I'm like 1 minute, and it's because I'm waiting for the kettle to boil. That's definitely happened.
I think you actively make tea. What's the latest you'll have a cup of tea?
I don't have a limit on that. I'll have tea right before sometimes I'll go to bed with a cup of tea.
What about your teeth cleaning?
Yeah, it's like one cup of tea. It's leaves in water in it. It's not. It's not the most. That's not the most harmful thing I've drunk all day. Do you know what I mean? Like in a world where like you could, like Coke exists, or even Vimto's probably not great for my teeth. I think a cup of tea's fine.
I just think I don't think
I'm not drinking the tea
Jess
straight.
does it.
I'm not drinking the tea straight after I brush my teeth. Keep in mind, I'm taking the cup of tea with me to bed. Maybe I'll read for a minute or look at my phone or whatever, and then I'll drink the tea once enough time has passed.
Jess takes squash to bed. I don't get it. Personally.
Yeah, I sometimes, if occasionally I'll be honest with you, more nights than not I'll bring a Vimto to bed. If I wake up in the night and I'm thirsty and it's not finished, it's there. It's on the bedside table.
But water, that's what you got water for. It's less clashing with the cleaning and the mintiness of the teeth.
I guess. Yeah.
Anyway, sum up the episode, my friend.
Yes, let's get to the actual episode. So this episode is called The Ringing of the Bell. And it is, of course, the Auntie Whispers episode, which Auntie Whispers, of course, voiced by Tim Curry. Surprisingly. So we'll start. The episode starts with Beatrice looking around what seems to be Adelaide's sort of hovel. We'll call it a hovel. I have not thought of a better word for it. She can't find whatever she's looking for, presumably the scissors. Then we cut to the two boys. They are moving forward. Wirt's claiming he's got a plan. He kind of probably doesn't, because as Greg correctly points out, no details have been forthcoming. The plan seems kind of vague. But it's raining, and all they want to do is get off out of the road and into some shelter. At that point, a tree gets knocked down in front of them, and our good friend the Woodsman's back. He gives them another dire warning of the beast, which we'll get to. Then they leave. They escape because they still think he's bad news. And then he has another conversation with the beast. They reach a place where they can get shelter, where they meet Lorna, who seems sweet and nice, but is somehow sort of subservient to this Auntie Whispers character who talks of people being eaten within their home, and it's all very creepy, and we think you're meant to think Auntie Whispers is bad news and eats people and all that stuff, and she has this bell that seems to control Lorna. What we eventually reveal, though, is that actually Auntie Whispers is using the bell to control Lorna because Lorna is capable of eating people. We learn this far too late, and there's a bit of a tussle, and in the end they realise that they can use the bell that controls her to actually ward the spirit out of her completely, thus saving her, and we reveal that Auntie Whispers is actually the sister of Adelaide. And then the two boys are on their merry way. Relatively succinct summary, I feel.
Yeah, I think so. I've got two big overarching things. The first one, let me just nip to my phone, Dan. You know how you occasionally send me something?
Yes.
I'm gonna send you something.
Oh, what? Game changer. For those who don't know, on our other podcast, Steven, it's happened once, maybe twice on this podcast, but on our other podcast, Steven University, I'm often sending Chris screen grabs of things so he can sort of see a thing I'm sort of pointing out. But this means Chris has noticed something. Right, so he sent me a picture of Auntie Whispers.
Yeah, I don't want to be rude. I don't want to bring down the tone, but she's got a cock on her nose. It's a cock nose, Dan. Her nose looks like a penis.
Oh my god. Well, we've earned our explicit rating tag early this week, but you are absolutely spot on. That is incredible.
I mean,
that is the most phallic nose I think I've seen.
It's I mean, sometimes I'll be honest with you. I don't have a lot of opinions because I was mainly looking at her nose. It wasn't really, but it was. I did find it distracting. Whenever the nostrils appear, whenever her nose or her face is particularly expressive or flared, and there's nostrils, looks less like a penis. But static nose, that's a penis.
Yeah. No,
in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I'll put that image in the video version of this as we're discussing it. A little bit of extra editing, but worth it to clarify. I'll use pretty much the image you've sent me there. I'll take it as a screenshot, but yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I take your point.
Yeah. So that's my first thought.
Right. So opinions of the content of the episode.
But this is I enjoyed. Well, quick summary. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I thought there was again a good mix of meat as we've been referring to it. Yeah. Meaning and a bit of potatoes stuff, and a bit of potatoes as well. And so I really enjoyed it. I did one kind of my big thought to analyse, if you will, is I feel like they with Wirt have been playing this thread throughout of. Greg being annoying and being this irritating younger brother. But I feel like they've not necessarily... whilst Greg is a bit playful, he's quite funny. I feel like they've not, like this week when she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "We're robbing you."
Yeah, we're burglars. That's my favourite joke.
He's quite funny and sweet. I feel like they've not done much. I feel like it's been unfair of Wirt.
Right.
Until this week, when they made Greg really annoying. Like, Greg was actively cocking things up the nose was actively cocking things up. But Greg was actively messing things up from when they came in, and he's like Robin, and then he's talking about and Wirt has to wrestle him to shut him up, to the end, where he's just like, "You haven't got a plan." Like, I legitimately found Greg annoying, and I was kind of like, "Oh, are we meant to have found him more annoying than I have found him? Are we meant to have all along been going, yeah, I get Wirt's issue."
Interesting. Yeah, I don't agree particularly. I found him exactly at the same level for this episode of like, he's definitely a hindrance. But he was a hindrance. He's been a hindrance in 90% of the episodes. Wasn't he the reason they got caught by the frogs in Lullabies to Frogland, like last week's episode? Wasn't he the reason that Wasn't he the reason they were in trouble in the first episode when he accidentally knocked out the Woodsman and the Beast was, not the Beast, but the monster of that week was.
But
like,
accidentally.
Well, not even accidentally. No, I say accidentally. Is he thought the plan was to knock out the Woodsman, if you remember rightly. So the premise of that one is their plan is to knock out the Woodsman, and then this monster shows up, and he just reverts to the original plan and knocks out the one person trying to defend them. And is like, oops. And then the reason the thing is chasing them is because he keeps dropping sweets.
I don't know. All of those things just seem, to be misunderstandings to me. This seemed like active sabotage this week, more so than usual.
I kind of agree on the burglars front, but that's just so funny that I gets away with it. But all the other stuff is kind of accidental. Like he goes upstairs because the frog goes upstairs. He's chasing the frog.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I just found him. I personally found him more noticeably.
Well, what were your other examples out of curiosity? So the burglar thing, which I can totally see, that is very actively hurting their situation, not helping it, because they obviously want shelter. And he's like, "We're burgling you," haha. Which is, I get that. Like that one, I think is valid. I personally didn't feel it because
no, but he then kept going.
Oh yeah, he doubles down on it. Yeah, 100%. But that's why that joke is so funny. Like to me, that's what I found amusing. So there's that one I agree with. I think you're valid in that. It didn't work that way for me, but I totally sense it. The waking up Auntie Whispers thing. The frog escapes. He's just following the frog. That's very innocent, childlike, unintentional. What were the other examples of where he was causing them trouble?
Well, without having the episode in front of me, I can't remember exactly, but it just felt like he was answering him back more this week, and that he was being more like, "Oh, you don't have a plan," and like dismissing a lot of what he was saying or not particularly listening. That's how
he
it
doesn't
felt to me.
actively point out he doesn't have a plan. He simply observes that you've not really given me a lot of details of this plan yet.
Yeah, it's annoying.
And I love there's a great joke early on when he says something about let me see if I got the quote here. Okay, so what's the plan? Because you're not saying any more details, so it's hard for me. Greg, I do have a plan, and if you trust me, then you don't have to. And if you don't trust me, you don't have to follow me. Okay? If you want to go look for Beatrice. Yeah, I did it right. Go ahead. You can do anything you want. Anything? That's a lot of power. And then the tree falls down, and he goes, "Did I knock that tree down with my powers?"
Yeah. There's that stuff is it's funny. Like the tree coming down, telling him to follow Beatrice.
Beatrice,
yeah, definitely. But if it's Beatrice down, why have you been saying Beatrice for 6 weeks?
Well, I've been saying it on and off. Depends on the occasion.
I think what kind of person would do a podcast when they can't pronounce names? That's all I'm saying.
Lunatic. So he's not questioning the plan. He just wants details. He just wants to know what the plan is. He's blindly trusting his brother mostly. He's just like, "I'm sure you've got one. So what is it? Like, just I'd like to know." And then.
Yeah, I hold my hands up. Maybe it's me, but I personally, maybe it's there's the references last week to him being annoying and stuff. It's just something I felt this week.
Interesting.
I thought that. No, I did like the twist. I did like the twist that actually the person we thought was the good guy had the evil spirit. I did like that. It's a little bit. If I had kind of paused the episode to think about it, it's a bit. How could they actually not be in? Well, I suppose it's the opposite twist they've been doing. They think they're safe and they are in danger, as opposed to thinking they're in danger and they are safe. So yeah,
absolutely. Right.
So I liked that. There's an element with the resolution of why didn't Auntie Whispers think of that? But I suppose. Yeah, because that was my first thought. I was like, why don't they just command it to leave?
Yeah, that is the big flaw in this episode, which is that if Auntie Whispers has clearly had access to this bell for quite some time and has been using it. The fact she never thought to say "Spirit, leave" and ring the bell seems. Yeah. The fact it took Greg to think of that is surprising. But that's the other thing I like about this episode. Actually, I really like that Greg is the solution. I like that Greg is the one who realizes where the bell is and tries to use it that way. He phrases it awkwardly, and that's when Wirt takes control. But it's his idea to ward her off with the bell. Yeah,
in Wirt's defense, he wouldn't have known that the frog ate the bell.
No, of course not. No, but that's what I'm saying. So, I just like that that's this part of the solution this week is that Greg helped. I like that Greg was not passive this week. He was an active part of the action, as it were.
What did you think to the fact that they were seemingly setting it up like Wirt and the woman was what was her name?
Lorna.
The girl, Lorna. What did you think of the fact that they were setting that up like they were gonna go off together, and there was sort of I quite liked that notion because I'm a big softie, but also because it's like he's struggling with this crush that he has. Maybe this is another girl that he might fall for instead, and then that sort of. She doesn't even say it to him really. She just says to Auntie Whispers, "Oh no, I'll never leave you." and kind of work just has to kind of accept. What did you think of that element?
I thought it was nice because it wasn't really played as like a full on. It was just like a, like a tiny childhood, the start of the crush maybe developing. Not too serious, not, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's gonna. I didn't get the impression he'd be leaving there, spinning a tale of woe like we saw him at the start of this show in general. And I don't think he'll be telling stories of her to Beatrice, later on about like how his heart was broken or whatever. I just felt like it was just nice to think, because it's kids. It's when you're young and you're like, it can be like that. You think you're seeing love everywhere sometimes when you're that age and your hormones are going nuts. So I totally.
I think I've made it very clear, Dan, that I thought I was in love with the same girl for like 7 years. So.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I got, for anyone wondering, I got their little boy a toy that you put as a dog on a skateboard and you press the button and it scoots off. It was shit. I shouldn't be allowed to shop on my own, but there we go. All good.
Yep. Well, let's. I mean, but in terms of that, so I think that. I mean, how did that work for you? Because you bringing it up makes me think maybe you weren't as fond of that idea.
No, not particularly. I thought it was quite a quick resolution to something they were setting up, but this episode probably, I think, like does more and has more threads running through it than other episodes of this show has. So I thought it was fine. I wouldn't surprise me if someone did think that. I could understand someone feeling that way about it.
Yeah, I did. So with quickly going back to the twist. They actually, watching it back knowing the twist, it's extremely clear that from the off that Lorna's the problem in Auntie Whispers' phrasing. But it's weird because it sort of shows you your sort of like logical bias. Like, because I didn't see that coming when I watched it originally. But when I watched it back this time...
No, I didn't.
It's so clear. She literally says... Child, keeping you busy is the only way to keep the evil spirits from driving you to wickedness. Auntie Whispers says that to Lorna in the first interaction they have with each other before she goes up to the
but that comes across as a paranoid guardian. Like,
oh, sure, but like that could not be clearer in the light of what you know. And that's what I love about this episode is that like. I think part of that is you're right, like you can explain it away, but the reason you jump to that conclusion before you'd ever jump to the reality is because I think there is like in your head there's a bias. There's Auntie Whispers is not designed like a person. That she's some sort of witchy creature. She's cloaked. She's, as Chris has pointed out, got a penis on her face, which I'm never gonna unsee.
Show Nadia.
Well, like big eyes, like like just a very, very unusual, very inhuman character design, and that and her way of talking and moving has all got a sinister vibe to it visually, and it's interesting because I think in a weird way it just shows you that you sort of like you do just judge. You go, well, this sort of like normal looking girl. She's clearly, the victim here, and this sort of weird, sinister, thing that calls her auntie, makes her call her auntie, even though she's not actually her auntie, who's, controlling her, clearly, like, evil, like, you just assume that immediately, like, it's just, I don't know if it's to do with the language of television, that you're often taught to immediately recognize the good guys and the bad guys, because that makes it easier for a writer. If the writer doesn't have to actually do anything to establish that, other than make them seem sinister, then you can play with that, and you can
making them an auntie. That in itself, I think it's kind of that sort of wicked stepmother, evil auntie vibe.
Yeah, 100%, and it totally, especially that she makes her like clean, and there's a Cinderella-y element to that, isn't there? Where it's like clean the floor until it shines or whatever she said. And the idea that she just. And Lorna says it, oh, well, I do this task until it's done, and by the time this is done, she'll have more tasks for me. And it's like, oh my God, this poor girl is like some crazy slave. And the funny thing about that is it's almost at what Adelaide wanted in reverse. Adelaide wanted slaves because she was lazy. Auntie Whispers was keeping her distracted, because if she doesn't keep her distracted, clearly, and this is the really crazy part of this episode, is Lorna is killing people. Like, they confirm that. She says, on multiple occasions things that indicate people have died. At one point she asks her to go arrange the bones in the basement.
Jeez.
I've got the quote here. Let me see if I can find it.
Why did she not think of banishing the spirit earlier?
Yeah. You shall sort the bones of those who have been eaten here before. How dark is that?
Jeez. Yeah.
Lorna has been eating humans.
It's so...
That's insane. And I think you nailed it. Like, this one's the opposite of everything else. When every time they've thought they've been in danger, there's been no danger to be had at all. It's been all fictional. It's been all in their heads. This time they came in, they thought they were relatively safe. Lorna seemed nice and innocent, and yet they were in so much danger because she literally eats people.
And that seems weird. Like, it's like, and I'm sure, we will overanalyze it in a minute, but like the warning, like once you destroy, essentially saying once your hope is lost, you're trapped and stuff. Everything so far has pointed to a world where you are your own worst enemy. It's jarring to me, not necessarily in a bad way, but it's jarring to me for there to be a monster of the week, essentially.
Yes. So
I find that odd. I find that sort of juxtaposes with the rules I've begun to form for myself of the world in my head.
But do you not think that like this whole episode was kind of about subverting expectations? So if you're going to do an episode with that as a theme, subverting the expectations of the show is kind of fine as a one-off. Like,
yeah, oh yeah, that was very effective for that reason. Yeah,
because I think what they've done, they've created a false sense of security that they've then challenged you on, if that makes sense.
Definitely, and I think it's the most. I probably enjoyed it more, to be honest with you, than the last like 2 or so. So yeah. I'd say it's legitimately been one of my favourite episodes. I think because so much happened.
It's one of mine too.
I found it quite captivating.
Yeah, no, it's one of my favourites too. Now, have you got your phone handy?
Only to send pictures of cocks, yeah.
Yeah. To clarify, I mean, no, he has. He sent me pictures of cocks. I mean, that's literally what that is. I mean, I was going to say like not real ones, obviously, just for the clarification. He means the
I'm not a dick pic guy. I think that is an atrocious thing to do to someone. Yeah.
So, on our new recurring segment, this shit has shown up in the opening of the first episode previously. I sent you 3 images that we've not yet discussed. These are all from the opening 30 seconds of the show. I accidentally sent you one of them twice. My apologies. One of them, can you see them? Are they in front of you?
Yeah, but I'm not by the mic.
That's okay. So one of them is Auntie Whispers making a quilt. Not Auntie Whispers, sorry. Adelaide making a quilt and cutting thread with the bird-shaped scissors from the previous episode. That was in the very first montage of the show. Another one is what can only be described as Quincy Endicott looking at the photo with the shadow passing him of what we now know to be the other lady that made tea, the Lady Grey. And then the third one is somebody organising bones who looks suspiciously like Lorna.
That third one is the most creepy.
Lorna in the bone dungeon.
Yeah, that's creepy.
And to think you saw that in the first 20 seconds of the show, but you were so so angry at the singing frog you didn't notice.
I do like though. Like it's cool, it's awesome, but I do. I don't know. Like sometimes the enthusiasm with which you talk about them hinting at things and putting those images in there, it's not been 7 seasons long. Like it's 10 episodes. Like I'm not surprised they were able to plan and plant shit in there early. It's still wicked. It's still awesome.
But I just
like,
love.
Whoa, man!
I love.
They knew what they were gonna do in episode 7 on episode 1.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No. You are very much misinterpreting what I like about it. It was a deliberate
Ted was always gonna be with Robin. There's a trombone. It's blue.
You
Right,
are
yeah,
you are misunderstanding the source of my excitement for this. I think it's nothing to do with the planning. It's to do with the stories were literally placed in front of us in what seemed like a seemingly random series of shots to just establish tone. Kids putting a boat in the water, a lady in a weird creepy dungeon, somebody doing some sewing. It all just seemed like atmosphere building. So it's not that they put hints in.
Yeah.
It's cool that they didn't just do atmosphere building. They put a hint for every single one of their episodes in one tiny montage right at the beginning.
It does make me want to go and watch that montage again, but I know you've said not to.
I just think if you see it again now, knowing that you may see stuff. Actually, I don't know what you'd get out of them from the last few episodes. I don't think there's much. We'll see.
Is it 2? Is that episode 8 or episode 7?
That was 7, so we got 3 left.
We got 3 more, yeah.
Yeah, 8, 9, and 10. So I really like that, and I particularly though I find that image of Lorna in the bone dungeon haunting as hell.
It's creepy. Yeah, it's creepy as anything.
From the little prologue.
It's the way she's like ordered the bones and stuff as well, and
yeah, they're clearly she's been organizing the bones. And look how many of them there are. How many people has she killed?
Yeah.
It's insane. Then another little detail I thought was pretty cool as well. I don't know if you noticed this, but Lorna's complexion changed after she lost the spirit.
Yeah. I did notice that.
She was extremely pale ahead of the bell finally sort of wading it off, and then once it was gone, she had a more sort of rosy cheeked sort of complexion, which I thought was a neat little design choice.
I thought the animation in general of that scene, like when the spirit leaves and goes up and stuff, I thought that was all great.
Yeah, and I think the movements as well, particularly so when the spirit's moving around, looks great. But I also think they did a really good job with the much slower Auntie Whispers character. Sorry, Auntie Whispers, if we're doing this new game of just mispronouncing everything. Auntie Whispers. When she's moving around, there's a real... You feel the stiffness, you feel the sort of age. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And that creates an extra level of creepiness, which is what they're going for, obviously, because at that point they want you to think that Auntie Whispers is going to be problematic. You think she's going to be the baddie. So moving on to some of the other bits and bobs. What did you think to Beatrice? The little set, just a little inclusion of her at the beginning.
I thought she was quite a lost and uncertain figure, and I felt quite sorry for her, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Did you like that they had that in this, even though she's not in this episode? Do you think? Because I think you could argue, I don't, but I think somebody could argue that it was a bit sort of out of place here. I think somebody could say she wasn't part of this episode or this story. You don't need that shot. You know, you can slip that in a later episode if you wanted.
Yeah,
but I just a nice little nod that she's still out there and around, and like just a reminder of her existence. I thought it worked well.
Yeah, I thought it worked quite well. I think I've grown to be fond enough of the character to be pleased that they're keeping us up to date with her.
That's fair.
I want to know more about what she's doing.
Or did you, like me, assume she was looking for the scissors? Because that was my assumption when I first watched it.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was, and that in a way was quite, if you really think about it, and I don't know if anyone watching it the normal way would necessarily, but that's quite a tragic idea, because she's not chasing down Wirt and Bert. She's genuinely looking still for that glimmer of hope, and looking everywhere for what will ultimately not be there, and potentially, in my opinion, not even work if she does find them.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. Yeah.
Unless
there is something tragic about that.
Unless, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Because our boys have got the scissors.
Yes. Well, we don't directly know that, but they were there next to them when they were tied up. Then they weren't tied up, the ropes were clearly cut, and the scissors were no longer where they were. So you can make that assumption. We physically never saw them pick them up, though.
That would suggest that 3 episodes from the end, potentially, it would suggest that they're going to reconcile, and then the boys are going to give them the scissors, and that only give Beatrice the scissors. And that only works if the scissors do actually work. So maybe I am wrong.
Unless they go for a darker ending where they give her the scissors in you know, and it's a touching moment of victory. They then return to wherever they came from, and the heartbreaking element of the conclusion is that they were fictional and that the boys didn't. That, you know, they've left satisfied that they've helped her, but haven't.
That would suck.
Well, no, okay. I was going to say, in which way would that suck? Though, does that suck from a storytelling perspective, or are you saying that would be it would suck because you'd be so sad for that situation?
Yeah, it would suck because it'd be so sad, and I think we're in this episode reaffirmed. You know, I was talking last week about that, one of the song lyrics last week,
yes.
leading me to this notion of the guys going, the lads, the fellas going through the world and helping people.
Yes,
you know, they've helped enough people now for me to feel like if they didn't help Beatrice, then it's unfair.
I hate that you're still doing that, by the way. You know, it's really making it hard for me to keep it straight in my head. You're the worst.
Well, I don't know what you're referring to.
Oh, you do, and you're a bad person. I only did it once or two. Like, I wasn't doing it that often in the first few episodes, but now it's going to happen more regularly because you're an arsehole.
Well, just, you know, I didn't do it earlier. So yeah, I think I said her name normally.
Can I?
Or maybe. Maybe that was saying Greg's name normally. I think it would be a shame if they helped everyone else but her.
Right. No, that makes sense. I think your logic is sound, but I just think, like, this show just did a character that's clearly eaten other people. Like, and she was the good guy.
But they did a story of the weak character that was eating other people that then got a happy resolution.
Yes, I see what you're saying.
The virtue of the fact that we even had Beatrice in the beginning of this episode points to them deliberately engineering it so that we feel more for her character and are more invested in her character.
Right.
I would be surprised if they went down an overtly dark route for that character.
Gotcha. I was simply proposing an alternative.
No, it's a good. It's option. It's a good discussion.
It would be I think it would be a powerful thing to do, though, to make you feel for her, make you feel the joy of success, and then snatch that out from you. From a storytelling perspective, from a narrative perspective, you would really that is the definition of, like, a roller coaster of emotion. That is, like, you would. You know, that'd be you can't deny it, whether it's likely or not from this position. That would be powerful storytelling if they went that way.
I'm not denying it would be powerful, and especially for your stone cold heart, it would seem. But I'm saying you don't even care enough to call her by her proper name. So whereas
you're proposing,
I'm very fond of Beatrice.
You're proposing a happy resolution. I am simply sort of putting out a theoretical alternative for you to ponder and
I've pondered it, and I personally wouldn't like it.
That is fair. That is fair and reasonable, Chris. So let's get to very quickly. We don't do this on this podcast. It's an old segment from an old.
Is it What Was Keenan's Plan?
No, it's a quote of the week, but. From Fringe Observers, our old podcast, but you don't need to do an intro, Chris. Don't worry, it's fine.
Yeah, I do. So every week when we did it on Fringe Observers, I would make up a theme tune for quote of the week.
Yeah.
So here we go.
Go on.
Doom do 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 doom ba bum ba bum down da 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 down bum ba bum ba bum down da 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 down bum ba bum Dan's quote of the week.
Hi, I'm Dan, and welcome to Quote of the Week. The quote of the week this week is when Greg goes, "Oh no, for some reason I thought the old lady was the people eater, but it was Lorna all along. It just goes to show you stuff." That quote, I literally had to pause it. I just loved that he knew he'd learned something, but he couldn't figure out quite what he'd learned. So he just sort of said, I learned stuff, question mark.
To be, because I found that quote very funny as well.
Yes.
But to be a knob.
Yep.
And to quote you and present the other side of things.
Yep.
Could you make an argument that whilst funny, that quote is deliberately expositional for maybe people that aren't quite keeping up.
Oh, potentially, yeah, but if you can make it expositional and hilarious and tell you something about the character's lack of comprehension of what's happening around him all at the same time, then you deserve it to be quote of the week, because it's both funny, tells us something about the character, and catches up the dummies who aren't following the plot. That's genius writing, you could argue.
Yeah.
And at one point, I was
thinking...
At one point, I was like, we came here to burgle your turts is a pretty good quote too, but... I mean,
why are you suddenly keeping an eye out for them?
No, I just noticed them this week. There were two that stuck out to me that I was just like, I've not really thought about that, but no, those two genuinely stuck out. So let's get to the to, as you would call it, the meat. The Woodsman and the Beast both returned. They both had they had two interactions that I thought were that give us some insight. The big quote though comes in the opening discussion between the two of them, when he says, when the Woodsman says to the kids, "The Beast knows your presence, ready to claim you as part of his dark forest, but only if you give up. Keep hearty in both body and spirit, and you shall be safe from him, or fall ill and lose hope, and your life shall pass into his crooked hands."
That's pretty dark, and to me, like I say, pretty. If you lose hope, you're stuck there.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe he takes you and captures you. I don't know.
Well,
turns you into a tree.
Well, I tie that then. So may I postulate a link between the two, Chris, and see how you feel about it.
How many times in your day-to-day life do you use the word postulate?
At the moment, multiple. I think I've said it like twice this episode.
No, but in your day-to-day life.
Almost never, Chris.
Okay, good.
No, everyone would think I was. Everyone would think I was a wanker. Everyone would. Yeah, I was gonna say everyone would think I was a dick. So obviously, at the end of the episode, we show that Wirt is losing hope. You know, he says, "Yeah, Wirt, you saved the day twice." He's like, "Yeah, I guess, but so what? We're still not closer to getting home. I don't know what I'm doing out here anymore. I don't know if we'll ever get back." And he's like, "Sure we will. What can stop us? You got a plan?" He's like, "I lied." So he's literally losing hope. And the Beast says, yes, all hope will soon be lost. We're lucky the boy had the pluck to best you. Your play could have cost us both. And then he says to the Woodsman, "Don't you care about keeping your lantern lit? Don't you care about your daughter's soul?"
Yeah, the lantern stuff is still very confusing.
Well, it's clear that the Woodsman is... I mean, I think you could I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the Woodsman is clearly keeping the lantern lit with the wood from the trees. We've previously heard that the Beast turns children into trees. Do you think that maybe he's saying that if you'd have given that kid hope and helped him get home, then you would no longer have wood to keep the lantern lit, and the lantern is essential to saving your daughter somehow?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the connotation, yeah.
Yeah.
I still want to know about the logistics.
I mean, it's magic.
Well, yeah, fair enough.
It's a magic lantern. There's a soul in it, I guess. I don't know. Keep it lit or it dies?
Yeah, I'll give you that.
I mean, we've seen weirder things.
Well, we watched a woman turn into ash last week.
Yeah, we did. That's true.
I thought I like the fact that they're sisters. It's a neat reveal and a neat bit of context for the world. But because they didn't do that would have been good advice to get a few days ago joke, I thought that felt slightly odd and tacked on.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think that would have made that would have worked better if they'd included because I very deliberately told you about the original script mentioning her sister last week because I thought you'd.
That makes sense.
Because because obviously her sister is this, and by the way, I think it's in this episode. One of the episodes, there's a background picture that shows three shapes. One of which is clearly Auntie Whispers, one of which is clearly Adelaide, and then a third, which suggests a third sister. I'll spoiler alert. I'll tell you now. We never see the third sister, but I found that interesting also.
That's interesting that we never see the third sister. I've never got the impression that there was any kind of second season for this on the cards at all. So it's interesting that that's an active an active omission as opposed to keeping something back for more.
Yeah, I mean, or they were literally just going like, well, like we'll fill out the world a little bit, make it feel a bit more lived in. There's a third one. We don't need to meet her. She's not relevant, but she exists. Therefore, it kind of makes the world feel more lived in. And I suppose the detail hunters are looking and finding that sort of stuff and going, oh, cool, that's neat to know. Like, it's all about it's all about the details. I mean, how would it affect the story? I suppose unless the third sister, because we've had bad and sort of, I guess, good. Would you have had a neutral sister? Just one that was kind of like, okay. I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do with that plot.
Quite a funny idea. I definitely that just affirmed for me the Beast's speech about the logic of the lack of hope, the lack of giving in. Well, the Beast, sorry, and what the Woodsman said keeps you there.
Yeah. So you think that they need. So you're saying the reverse would be true to get them home.
Oh no, I wasn't saying that, but I think that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, because I mean, I just following your logic. So you said that keeping them there would require them losing hope. So the reverse of that being very hopeful would get them would presumably do the opposite.
Maybe. I mean, they were fairly hopeful in the beginning. I don't
is
know
very
if
true.
If they need to do something to get.
And
them
I mean,
home.
Greg is still very hopeful. I mean, even at the end of this episode, he was like, "It's great. We're good. We're fine. Keep going."
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point.
No, you're right. I mean, in terms of like in terms of the sort of the Beast, do you feel like
my doorbell has just gone down.
Okay.
I'm terribly sorry. Do you mind if I quickly nip and...
Yeah, because you're paranoid, and if you don't answer it, you'll be wondering what it was all the rest of the podcast.
Yep.
Yeah. He's going to go do that, and I'm going to sit here with my dick that looks like a nose in my hand. Or my nose that looks like a dick in my hand. One or the other. You guys decide. What we'll do is we'll put a cut in here, and when we come back in a second, Chris will be back, presumably to tell us who the fuck was at his door. So enjoy that in a few seconds. We're back.
So, right, the shopping was delivered an hour early, which meant Jess wasn't in, because, it was coming an hour later. And, so yeah. My apologies to Dan. My apologies to the listeners. And in many ways, my apologies to... Nope, no, I don't know where I'm going with that.
No, I didn't either. I was waiting. I was just like, what is
Nope.
Quick question. I assume, because for those listening, obviously, like, he ran downstairs, I heard talking, then I heard the door shut, and I'm like, he'll be back in a second. And then it was just nothing happening, and I was like, what the fuck's going on? And my assumption now is your shopping came with frozen and/or chilled foods that needed to be refrigerated and/or put in a freezer.
I literally dumped it on the side and was like, fuck, I can already feel that defrosting. So apologies if you'd have just left it, but it was defrosting.
Oh no, I wouldn't. But I might have I might have indicated to the other person it might be a minute or two first.
Well, I was like, I'm going to speed put it away, which wasn't quick enough, it would seem.
It's all right. It's all good.
I'm out of breath.
I can tell. Well, let's
Auntie Whispers has a cockcrow nose, yeah?
Yeah.
He said to me, oh, I'm just on the phone to your partner. I was like, fine. What did she say? Presumably, he might not answer the door.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, I mean, your paranoia pays off, or you'd have lost out on your...
Yeah, I don't know if it's paranoia. You've answered doors before on...
podcasts. Yeah, when I knew what was coming, you were confused. I would have if I hadn't been expecting anyone, I'd have just been like, oh fuck it, who cares? Like it'll be just someone telling me, asking me if I truly gave my heart to Jesus or not yet, and we get a lot of that here. So, but the time that I answered the door of the podcast is because as I'd warned you before we started, there were people coming to deliver a couch or take a couch away or something. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. Look, Dan, I gave a pretty heartfelt apology to you and the listeners, and then a third mythical being, and now I feel guilty all over again, and yeah,
great,
just wallowing in that guilt. It doesn't sound sincere.
No, it does not.
But it is.
Sounds
No,
the
but I
op-
did it. You know it is. You know it is.
It doesn't matter. I mean, like, why are we still talking
Right.
about it?
Because you were like, yeah, the time that I answered the door, as I pre-warned you. I remember you saying the shopping might
in
come.
response to you
It's
saying
come
you've
early.
answered doors before.
Yeah, but I wasn't like, you've answered doors before, Dan. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what you did.
I didn't mean to sound like that.
I was
Anyway.
simply responding to your point. I was happy to move on.
Anyway.
Moving on.
It was the shopping.
It was the shop. Right. It's okay, kids. Mummy and Daddy aren't really fighting.
No. It's all out of love.
And hate. So, I mean, in terms of
Very thin line.
in terms of the sort of conversation between the Beast and the Woodsman, was there anything else you feel like you gleaned from that, or do you feel like the stuff we've covered is sort of like pretty much what you got?
No, I
from
think
it?
the stuff we covered is my main gleaming.
I was not expecting the words "my main gleaming" to come out of your mouth at that point. I should not have been drinking my drink. I apologise. I've nearly finished my cup of tea.
Nice. Well, you've had lots of time, haven't you?
I did. I got an extra bonus where I had to go and drank quite a bit of it. I might even make a small start on the second drink, Chris. I'm a madman today. I'm a man on a mission.
That's how.
So in terms of that, so just as last notes or last little things I wanted to discuss with you. First of all, I wanted to point out I found the phrasing on something Lorna says at the end to be quite interesting, which is perhaps I'll see you again someday. I hope so.
Again, implying this trapped, everyone comes here eventually sort of mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Can I? Because I've made a note to tell you this isn't related, but it should make you laugh and make up for the delay. Do you want to hear about a very awkward moment with the shopping guy?
Sure.
I answered the door and went, sorry for the delay in answering. I was recording something, and then he looked me up and down in my pajamas, and I can tell he was scared.
Yeah,
I can tell he was thinking, what has this guy been recording in pajama bottoms? I just had to get that out of my head. To me that links back to this. Yeah, but does she hope?
Yeah, that's a bit like someone at a hospital saying, see you again. It's like, why would you wish that on someone? You work at a hospital.
Yeah, but she, as much as she was tortured by the demon, she does now seem quite happy. Good old Auntie Whispers.
Yeah.
She's kind of you know what? The pumpkin seemed happy.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
it's a happy old world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quick bits of housekeeping. The two names we got for the frog this week were Greg Jr. and Dr. Cucumber.
Yes, I noticed them. They were cool.
Oh yeah, I should have been keeping track of those all along because he's been using different names to describe that dog since frog since episode 1. That was weird. Just a rhyming word just jumped into my head for some reason. That was very strange. It's the start of my new rap career. Just automatically come up with rhymes so quick, Chris. that it's taking over.
So quick that I thought you were going to do another rhyme with quick.
Nope.
So
tempted to say that to think that would make you a lunatic, but I decided not to go with it. Anyway, so yeah, those are those. The name Lorna was apparently coined for the book Lorna Doone, a Romance of Exmoor, which is about a young woman with a dead family who is hidden away but falls in love with a young man.
Yeah, cool, nice.
But there's two conflicting description sources for Auntie Whispers' design elements. One of them is said that she may be inspired by Yubaba from Spirited Away, which I think there is a resemblance there. The other one is that she's based off a 19th century illustration of an old man with big eyes who looked like an owl. Now there's a link to that here apparently. Where is that? All right, let me have a look at that. Oh, and that actually...
Owl man got a cock for a nose?
That's what I'm about to tell you.
Yeah.
About to tell you.
If he's got his penis out in this picture, I will laugh.
A little bit. A little bit.
So phallic.
It's not. I mean, it's not as bad as the the actual design on on Auntie Whispers, but it's in terms of it's not as blatant, blatantly phallic, but it is also relatively phallic in the grand scheme of things. I will send you that picture so you can look at it. But now that's actually from Patrick. Was it McHale? Is that his name? 1 second. Sorry, I've lost the image in my 1,000,001 tabs. Yeah, that's from Patrick McHale directly saying Auntie Whispers was based off a 19th century illustration of a man with big eyes that looked like an owl. I can't seem to find the book with the illustration at the moment, but here is my initial sketch. Oh, so this isn't actually the... he was copying the illustration here, but this isn't the actual illustration itself.
Right, okay.
But I'll send that to you, and I'll put it on screen for those listening. That's pretty neat, though.
Cool.
Yeah. I've sent it to you so you can have a look at it later and judge how phallic the nose is.
Nice. I'll spend my evening doing it, mate.
Yeah, that's fair. I see the Spirited Away thing seems less likely now if that's the basis for the image, for the design.
Fair enough.
So, and there are many stories about... sorry, what's that? That one doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I'm not even going to read that one. I don't understand that. Wirt and Lorna show signs of attraction to each other during the episode, both blushing, often at the sight of each other. That's not really trivia, Wiki, is it?
That's observations.
Yeah, here's a thing that happened in the episode you just watched. Insanity. Oh, okay. No, that one's kind of a spoiler. No, I'm not going to read that one. And they point out that Lorna's skin changes tone after she's finished from possessed, and that's it. Actually, looking at it, that's a shame. I thought there was more trivia than that.
That's all right. No, all good.
Yeah. Well, overall thoughts though. So you said this is one of your favourites so far. Did you say?
Yeah, one of my favourites. I enjoyed it. A little bit of romance, good little plot, good little twist, good mythology-based meat and potatoes.
Awesome.
Yeah. You?
Yeah, no, it's one of my favourites too. I think this and the School Town Follies, and maybe maybe Mad Love with Endicott. I think that one, I really like that episode too. Like, they're some of my favourites.
Yeah, was Mad Love the one that I felt was a bit impacted by the one before being tantalising of mythology, and then it didn't really. Yeah, but I really like. I like that one. I like the school one. I quite like the frog one last week, actually.
Yeah, Lullabies in Frogland's a great episode.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So there we go. So so before we wrap this one up very quickly, Chris, where are you at with sort of theories on where this is going?
I don't know. There seems to be so many different rules that makes me. I'm moving away from my purgatory thing. It feels more, you said about imagination last week, it feels way more imagination filled, but then it also feels so specific, and we're also not only ever with Wirt and Bert, we're sometimes with other characters, and you usually find imagination stuff you're mainly with, it's from one point of view, I'm big on the notion that maybe I was wrong and the owl scissors are going to work and they're going to set her family free at the very end. Yeah. And I think we are ramping up to. I think it wouldn't surprise me if we start almost going all mythology now.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Well, I
just don't know how much you can wrap it up in one.
Would you like me to give you the titles for the remaining 3 episodes? Would that be
hell yeah.
tantalising?
Yeah.
I say episodes, I mean chapters, of course. The next episode, the very next one, is called Babes in the Wood.
Mm-hmm.
The episode following that is called Into the Unknown. And the episode following that is simply called The Unknown.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay. I'm tantalised.
That is the...
No, I am.
Tantalisation achieved.
Obviously I've kept us, but we can't not. I'm so sorry. British actor in 2 major sitcoms, the lead character in neither.
Okay. Holy hell. Era for each sitcom?
One of the sitcoms was the early 80s through to the 90s, and the other sitcom was the 90s through to the early 2000s. You would also very much know him for a cameo in Doctor Who.
That is a tantalizing one, because that's one of those ones that I feel like I know the answer, but I can't quite think of it.
You do.
Does that make sense?
Mm.
I feel like I have more than enough information to put this together, but I haven't just yet.
You want another hint?
Yeah, go on.
The 90s early naughty sitcom was written by Richard Curtis and another guy whose name I can't remember.
See, I can't remember what Richard Curtis was up to in the 90s other than the films.
The lead protagonist was a female.
Am I being really stupid here?
No. It's one that it's deliberately. I thought of them last week. It's deliberately someone that is not, okay, I'll give you an even bigger hint. The first.
Oh, wait a second. Was the
sitcom
90s one? Is the 90s one Vicar of Dibley?
Yes.
So who in Vicar of Dibley has also been in Doctor Who?
Well, do you want the missing program? The 80s, 90s TV show was written by... Do you want the writer of that?
Is it Roger Lloyd Peck? Or Peck?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's a really tough one.
What made you realise?
Because I was just trying to think of who... It was purely the Doctor Who thing. That was the only actor I could think of that was in Vicar of Dibley and Doctor Who. I can't think of what show he was in the 80s. Oh, he
really?
Was in, what am I talking about? What am I talking about? He was literally in Only Fools and Horses. What am I doing?
Yeah!
He was Trigger. What am I doing? You know what it was? you know what it was that threw me? You said cameo in Doctor Who. He had a role in Doctor Who.
Huh?
He had a role.
Yeah, but he's only in 2 episodes.
That's a part, though. He was a character.
Okay,
a cameo suggests showing up for a moment.
I can't think of anyone apart from Bill Nye who's had a cameo in that sense.
Yeah, well, Patrick Moore had a cameo.
Oh, okay, yeah. Fair enough. Cool. I look forward to your one next week.
Oh dear, that was tough, man. Because you know what else as well? Once I realised who it was from Vicar of Dibley, I was then struggling to remember the actor's actual name.
Yeah, hence Roger Lloyd Peck.
Yeah. And then I went, wait a minute, no, that's wrong. As soon as I said it, I was like, I've said that wrong.
Cool. I think you're going to think about one in advance next week.
Oh, I definitely am, because I got caught out last week with not having an answer. Oh, that's actually something we did discuss about Over the Garden Wall. What do you think to Tim Curry's performance as Auntie Whispers?
I thought it was great. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
Super creepy. Tim Curry should be
very effective.
I was going to say Tim Curry should be in more things, but I'm now really worried Tim Curry is dead.
I don't know, unfortunately.
I'm going to Google that.
I hope not.
I'm going to Google that.
I hope not.
No, he's still cracking on. Good.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it was only because I said that I worried about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have minded. Anyway, so that was this week's episode, of course, of Over the Garden Wall. Thank you so much for listening. As usual, if you want to hear next week's, you can hear it as right now. You can go over to the Patreon, give us as little as $1 a month. Just do it for the 1 month if you want to hear them, and then you can unsubscribe. Whatever you want to do. We appreciate any level of donation. That's cool. But yeah,
we do.
If you subscribe, you get access to the next week's episode. I don't know if we'll do that with the very final one, because I feel like that might be.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, but I'm not even really sure how to articulate my argument against that. So, but you can also now get this on iTunes and Spotify. I don't know why it's on Spotify. That is a total accident as a result of how I got it on iTunes. The service I used to get it on iTunes just uploaded it to Spotify without me doing anything, and it's just on Spotify now. So
Fair play.
enjoy. But it's under the name. It's
I'll
just
put it
under the
on-
name.
I'll
It's,
put it on my wedding playlist.
yeah, well, it's funny because it's just under the name Daniel, because I guess when I was signing up, at some point I put my name in it, and it's used that as the author name rather than what's normally under our podcast. So I've got to fix that credit.
I like to think that I don't think you should fix it just for when some young buck wants to rise in the music scene and like Adele wants to be known for one name, and it's just like, I'm just going to be Daniel. And
Every time someone
It
searches
can't.
that name, over the garden wall
yeah.
shows up by Daniel. Just Daniel.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, we're on Spotify. The Patreon page is patreon.com/nothingbutstatic. Obviously, you're already here on the YouTube channel if you're listening to this. Well, you might not, but you might be hearing it through iTunes or whatever. But if you're on the YouTube channel, hit subscribe. We finally reached 1,000 subs. Thank you for everyone who subscribed. I was, you're all heroes. We'll actually be remonetized soon, which would be nice because they took that away from us last year, and it's taken us this long to get up to the subscriber numbers, even though we smashed the requirements for hours listened to. They wanted 4,000 hours listened to, and we got something like 15,000.
Yeah, being like over triple one of them should really be like, because equally, if someone had 3,000 subscribers, I kind of feel like they should be allowed. So yeah,
That's tricky, isn't it? So thanks very much for listening, everyone. Obviously, we do appreciate that. You can also catch us on Twitter. I'm at Dan Doolan. Chris is at C Billingham with 2 M's, and of course, you can catch the Nothing But Static Twitter at Nothing But Static without the G. You can also send us an email. It's mail@nothingbutstatic.co.uk, or you can drop a comment below. Keep in mind that if you enjoy this, you can also go further down into the channel and find the playlist for Steven University, which is basically this, but for the show Steven Universe. Or if you go on iTunes, you can also find Fringe Observers, which is basically this, but for the show Fringe. Or you can catch us bi-weekly on Nothing But Static, which is our main podcast. It's a couple hours long each episode, and we basically dissect the last 2 weeks worth of news, reviews. We go through the lot. Next, the next episode we're recording, and probably will definitely be available by the time you hear this, we'll be discussing the new Twilight Zone that Jordan Peele's put together, plus some other bits and bobs like the Apple announcement sort of stuff for their new TV service. So yeah, there'll be plenty to talk about. We'll and the hint as well, we'll probably be talking about how it's incredible that Supernatural has lasted for 75 years. That'll probably come up because it's just been announced it's coming to an end. So yeah, there's a few things to discuss. Oh, also Modern Family coming to an end needs to be discussed at some point, presumably for the same logic.
And at some point, possibly Emily Beckett leaving Arrow, because that's just weird.
It's weird because the show's about to finish.
The show's about to finish on a shortened season. Would you not just have a reduced part?
Unless
odd.
it's because she's dying this year. Did I say that out loud? Oh,
The character,
maybe it's No, I'm predicting the actress will die this year.
I was gonna say, Jesus, it's dark.
I'm predicting that the character is
Hope not.
storyline wise already planned to be dead this year. Therefore, they did not renew her contract.
Oh wow! Oh, regardless of what they were doing with the 8th season.
No, it doesn't matter. She'd already be dead. Anyway, potential Arrow spoilers, I guess, aside. Thanks for listening, and all that jazz. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
We'll speak to you next time when we once again venture into the unknown and overanalyze the Garden Wall.